Yo guys, today we're going to do more Limbus company content. It's been a while since I did Limbus company content. Oh man, like I have exams and everything, so I've been kind of stopped doing Limbus content due to exams. Like it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. Like I still want to try this game. It's just that I got too busy and like I got too busy to the point that I wasn't able to do Arcanist content as well. So yeah, it's not only Limbus. So yeah, now we're going to see this video, everything we know about distortion, ego, and abnormalities. Oh man. Wait, it's been a while. Oh my god, I need to rewatch some of the videos. To be honest, like, oh man, I have stopped. I forgot all the jargon. Well, I feel like I will remember some of this. Like yeah, this three thing here. I feel like I will remember, but no. Well, let's just watch this and maybe I will remember. Like, oh, I know that ego is related to the power, right? The power system, I think. So, yeah, let's watch this.
Corrupting someone as it is being useful to that person. System Moons is about this little thing called humanity. It's a system born out of the inherent meaning and this here is Project Moon's power system.
Yeah, ego. Library guild. What the fuck? There's so many egos.
And what I think is fantastic about it is that unlike many
Oh yeah, now I remember. Like, I forgot. Like, doesn't there's someone whisper to you and like how someone become a distortion and or an ego, or some, I forgot the term, but someone who can use the power is either they accept the what I call that person Carbon, I think, right? I think that's their name, right? The character that they say Shin Mang. Oh my god, there's so many. Oh my god, like I stopped. I feel like my knowledge right now has a gap now due to how long I've stopped watching it. I need to rewatch it again in my own time. Or maybe I don't need to watch it. Yeah, maybe it's good that I don't remember it. Maybe it's good. When I truly try the game, maybe I will get what I call fit the pieces together.
shonen power systems that use theirs as a scaling tool or rely on its users coming across some MacGuffin, Project Moons is about this little thing called humanity. It's a system born out of the inherent meaning and pain that come from being a human. And like the human condition, it's just as capable of corrupting someone as it is being useful to that person depending on how they respond. And I think that's beautiful. However, there's one drawback to that beauty. It's shaped like a
You start here. Virtual training, something bad happened, Carmen appears, yeah, Carmen. Golden Boughs. Oh man, you should not put golden balls here. Holy shit, I thought it's related to it. Okay, you start here, something bad happened. Oh yeah, the trauma. And then Carmen appears, and then either you reject it, you will become you will become okay.
virus, and it's spreading. Speaking of,
Spoilers for all 3 p.m. games, Distortion Detective, Leviathan. Like, I wouldn't
now,
know
I'm not
this.
saying it's hard to understand this system on the surface. Most of the system can be explained by saying that if you're mentally well, you get a sick personal weapon called ego.
Yeah.
If you crash out, you distort
You become
into a
Distortion.
monster like a TADC character. But while
Yeah.
that's easy to understand, it's pretty reductive. In fact, it's so simplified that I'll just call it wrong and an injustice to the world building. So let me give you a full tour of the essentials to PM's magic system, or as I like to call it, the light system.
The
Let's
light
start
system?
this sucker off with what separates it
It's not Shim system anymore? Okay.
setup from even the greats. Ego and distortions, the big funny words on the thumbnail, those as we know them barely even existed before midway through the series. And
Oh,
unlike
really?
a certain other franchise, Project Moon didn't need to throw away its original system in the process of making its most famous one.
Wait, relax. Like, don't, like... Yeah, Jojo is a message, but PM got them beat in forethought. Yeah, Hamon got sidecast so badly. And it was Hamon was such an interesting power system. With how creative you need to get with Hamon to actually beat the enemies. Like, don't get me wrong, Stan is way more interesting and way more interesting of a power system. But Hamon was very flexible. Like there's so many times where I was just amazed by Joseph application of what I call of Hamon compared to Jonathan. Like Jonathan just punch with Hamon.
Instead, we know exactly what the source of this magic is, and that's in.
The river. Okay, I don't know what the
Alright,
river is.
baseline brass tacks first. The world of Project Moon takes place in this continent-sized metropolis called the City. And
Yeah, the city. Yeah.
the name, it's dystopia central everywhere except maybe in its version of China. Jury's out there, we'll let him cook.
But really, is version of China? What? So only China is peaceful? Okay.
Our tour starts underneath it in a place
Hey,
called the ruin.
I thought it was Korean. So okay, interesting. They make China the one being peaceful. Maybe that is not even Chinese. Maybe it's actually Korean.
Here, you can find a whole hodgepodge of horrors, including birds, lighthouses, blue hair dye, and therefore pronouns, and most importantly, the rivers. This body of water runs underneath the entire city throughout the ruins and moving into the outskirts beyond the known world. Dubbed the primordial sea of possibility or well of humanity, the waters are said to contain all of human consciousness and all
Human consciousness?
of the past, present, and future. In other words,
Whoa.
it's basically magic water. But not actual magic, no, that's something else. The river has special properties that can manifest in countless ways. For instance, some parts of the river split off
All we know that this could be some of them.
into little tributaries or sub-rivers that have their own powers. One example of this is the River of Oblivion, which can suppress the memories of someone's past by drinking it. And considering how something that potent is just one of the infinite possibilities the river can bring, you'd think that people would be clamoring to milk this sucker for all it's worth.
Yeah.
No. Despite being the most potential liquid known to mankind,
Potential
the river
liquid. Okay, that's. Oh man, the potential has become like potential has been used like a meme. I feel like nowadays.
are virtually unknown. While there are some factions that choose to explore the ruins for treasure and other mysteries, this is a place mostly lost to time. In fact, the only ways that the poor souls on the surface know about it are from the gaps, where the river exists higher than normal and some effects can be found up top. The most notable of these gaps is in the Black Forest in the outskirts and Wuthering Heights in District 20. And
Don't know
both are
them.
ruined by a supposed beast from inside. It ain't something to start counting nickels about, but I thought it was kind of funny. Eventually, though, a research team would come upon the river while
Dude, he looks like Kim Do-ja. Don't you guys agree? You cannot tell me that's not Kim Do-ja, bro.
in the outskirts of the city and attempt to use it to better the world around them. That's because the city, it's a pretty place to live.
Obviously.
Violence is rampant, planes don't exist, and Grubhub drivers
Planes? Wait.
explode when they're live. Violence is rampant, planes don't exist,
Oh,
and
okay.
Grubhub drivers explode when they're late. And these researchers
Wait, what?
are reading a lot of the source of this suffering
Taxis go explode when they're late? What the fuck?
to something called the disease of the mind. Now, I talk about it more in this video, but for our purposes,
Holy shit. I don't think I should watch this. Because I feel like this would be spoiler and I feel I should learn it myself. But Carmen, like this Carmen character feels like it's going to be a very important character. Like it feels like the priestess of Limbus company. So yeah, I feel like I should not watch that video. But damn, there's a lot of new jargon here. The river, the what you call the virus, the disease of the mind. Like there's so many new what you call terminology here.
they had the idea that if they could refine the waters of the river into a resource, then every person could manifest the means and weaponry to become their best self and reclaim the hope for a better future rather than this trudging, hopeless cycle of suffering they have now. And while it was a nice plan on paper, it proved to be a total wash. But with some gumption, a multi-wing war, and innumerable human sacrifices, that research
Holy, what the fuck is that? Ew!
gumption, a multi-wing war, and innumerable human sacrifices,
What the hell is that? Ew! What happened to you?
that research team founded a new plan and succeeded in turning the waters of the river into a substance called cogito, which we're gonna put a pin in now but come back to later, promise. Because while cogito had its uses, the goal was to further refine it into a resource we now call light. The final plan was to cause an eruption of this light so that it would shine for 7 days across the city. The waters of the river would be infused with 10 particular virtues and imbue every...
Oh, virtues are bringing. Okay, so the virtues are now bringing are now exist in this world. Like I was thinking, is there no virtues? Like if there's sins, there's probably virtues as well. Okay, now it's confirmed there's virtues. The concept of virtues are in this game.
person with two things. The first was basically spreading Zoloft into the air, giving the population a sense of relief from the drudgery and leading them to think more positively while it was up. And
Okay, what the hell?
the second was the means to seize a power called EGO.
Wait, let me. What? I feel like they want to refine the river,
goal
right?
was to further refine it into a resource we now call light. The final plan
Oh yeah, the light system. Okay, he call it the light system.
was to cause an eruption of this light so that it would shine for 7 days across the city. The waters of the river would be infused with 10 particular
Okay. I didn't pick up on that. I was thinking something else.
virtues and imbue every person with two things. The first was basically spreading
Okay, I need to log
Zoloft
in.
into the air, giving the population a sense of relief from the drudgery and leave them to think more positively while it was up. And the second was the means to seize a power called EGO.
Yeah,
The
ego.
weaponry and tools born out of their person to achieve those goals. The hope here was that if every person was able to shrug off the dread they held for just long enough, even the most defenseless in the city could wield the power to seize their most honest ideals. And somehow, it worked. Until it didn't. Because
Oh,
the
what?
researcher made their second in command by plugging his dead crush into a fridge called Character AI, the head researcher made their
I'm sorry, because head
second in
research
command by plugging his dead crush into a fridge called Character AI,
character AI.
which, don't worry, was not the first time he harvested a friend for science. It eventually
Ooh, whoa.
went off course enough to try and take the light for herself 3 days into the fireworks show. And do you wanna know what this, stopping your meds cold turkey, and the year 1929 have in common? A ding ding! That's right, they end with a violent crash. While the first 3 days were bright at every hour, the final 4 were dark at every moment. And the people felt a greater sense of negativity than before. This
Oh,
back-to-back
no.
series of events would become known as the White Nights and Dark Days. But by the week's
White
end,
Knights.
all of the immediate effects leveled out and the sky returned to normal. Except, even if incomplete, this seed of light here had already made its impact on the
Yeah.
city. Not
Yeah.
only were people acting more honest with themselves now, but they were able to use the power from the Well of Humanity to draw out their own ego from their ideals.
So I guess in a sense, this light. I guess I can make an analogy. You can say that this light makes the human able to have powers now. So so this light technically changed the human change the humans to have the ability to use these powers that is called ego, if they're able to draw it out instead of becoming a distortion.
But still, there were some consequences.
Yeah,
But first, we
distortion.
gotta take a step back and look at who exactly was running this operation. Now, I ain't got the time to walk you through the candy-colored trauma team of 10 here, so let's just talk about the mother and father figures. Johnny X and Jane Bathbaum here were both heads of this project at one point. Jane, aka Miss Sun, aka Carmen, was the original founder and had her vision being that the people in the city should follow their own path and innate desires. So her vision of the light would manifest as a way for people to become the truest form of those. And then Johnny X, real name Abel, Abram, Adam, Twitter. Ian took over once Carmen fell in the bathtub and kicked the bucket. The bucket would then go on to eat
What the fuck?
over once Carmen fell in the bathtub and kicked the bucket. The bucket would then go on to eat her, and Ian would continue with his own vision. He
What the fuck? What the hell? It's what?
instead thought people should face struggle through reason instead of emotion alone. And eventually, both of them would enter the light by the time the White Nights and Dark Days came to pass. In other words, these two made themselves gods that live inside the light. And that is the series of events that led to the trauma cluster we now know as Project Moon's ego and distortion power system, and allowed people to wield their light to give their mind physical form. All it costs to make use of it is the low, low price of a single panic attack. Allow me to demonstrate.
Panic attack.
So, let's say you had the worst day of your life. 2 of your friends died, you forgot how to make fried chicken, and your
You
long-lost
forgot
brother
everything.
came back to steal your house. At some point, your poor mind just can't handle that. And all you can see is utter darkness in front of you before a colorful, comforting light. Now at this stage, one of 3 things can happen. Outcome number 1, you can keep panicking and become a sinful little Picatula. We won't talk about that here, but don't worry, boss got you covered. But should you
I
keep
already
your
watched
wits
that.
about you, you're greeted with the chiming of bells and the voice that launched a war, Carmen. In your darkest moment, she will give you a glimmer of hope. Carmen will tell you—
Wait, so you can somehow become those monsters if even without Carmen appearing? Okay.
about how harsh the world has been to you, how much it's taken from you, and how unfair it is for you to be suffering the way you are. You'll be comforted and asked relentlessly about what it is you truly want, until finally, Carmen will ask you if you are willing to take the means to get it by painting the world in your own colors. And your answer will determine whether you distort or manifest ego. If you answer yes, your body will distort, taking a new shape that reflects your very desires and impulses. But if
What the fuck is it?
you answer no, and instead insist on taking matters into your own hands, reasoning beyond only your own desires, you will manifest ego as weaponry or tools on your body. And it's
Interesting.
this solitary interaction that—
It's a very psychological thing, the power system. Essentially is devil's what I call the apple. Like, will you willing to accept the apple or not? Like, it's very, yeah, that is very Christian, like the way they do the power system. I guess makes sense when you use sin as the power system. What I call when the power relates to sin and virtues. So yeah, interesting. But I wonder where is that person? I forgot that name. That person that is with Carmen, the other person who believes that people who should face the problem through reason. Like, what did he do that might affect that, because he becomes the light as well, right? He becomes a god in the light or something like akin to that. So what kind of effect does he have in the power system like Carmen? Like Carmen, gives you what I forgot. um Carmen give you a decision to either become a distortion or become become, not really become a distortion, but more like accept the power or reject it. Well, even if you reject, you still got the power. So
the rest of Project Moon's power system unfolds. Because as luck would have it, we have a recorded case of a conversation with Carmen. Well,
oh really?
okay, we have 2 now. But by the time this comes out, the source for both of them will be gone, and this giant germ will at least be archived on YouTube. So we're gonna go the other way and start by talking about
Ego.
this.
Yeah, this video is so long. 1 hour, holy.
This is Virgilius, also known as the Red Gaze, Verge, the Guide, and formerly as the Fraud. He's
The fraud? What the hell?
stoic guy that doesn't like unnecessary words or actions. And near the end of his story, Leviathan, he sees the children in an orphanage he desperately tried to save, well, cease to be. And the man responsible, Jumsoon, has just distorted in front of his eyes and also taken out all of his co-workers. This sight is enough to shake Verge to his core and leads to him being accosted by Carmen. And as much as I'd like to show you the entire interaction, well, that would make this video 20 minutes longer. So instead, here's all the essentials and a little taste of how it went.
Your heart looks to be aching.
Oh my.
The
What's
children
that
you
thing?
couldn't save are swirling around in your head, aren't they?
I wanted them to live on my behalf. If I could get them to live with the heart I couldn't have, I was sure that even the faintest flow would grow into the sturdiest.
It must have been so difficult, lonesome, suffocating to have such a lofty dream. But you don't have to hide it anymore, because everyone can create by themselves a world they consider right.
A world for myself. What are you talking about?
A world only for your eyes to see. Exactly that. It is to become a self unbound by the eyes and standards of the city.
So I should disregard.
Yeah, I guess Carmen is like Carmen is literally the devil in this case. But it's interesting because Carmen, I thought that Carmen was the nice one between the two, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know much about Carmen to actually know if she's evil or not.
Everything that is in me.
But the fact that she's being the devil that gives the choice to eat the apple or not is very interesting.
Have you always been this way? Driving those trying to reawaken down another path?
I simply ask questions others have never given thought to. And usually, we understand each other. I support and lend them strength, so they can continue on their new path.
A friendly, yet ruthless pressure. Don't look at anything but yourself, and be buried in self-love. It says it'll give me the power to do so. But it would be a thirst that could never be satisfied. Then, wouldn't distorting only prevent you from looking
Isn't this the same manga where he used Shin, I think? Like, I don't know, like, because I think Leviathan is literally the same manga that where he used the cross light thing.
inch ahead of yourself?
It could be. Still, that interpretation is your idea in color, is it not? As for me, I have my own color, and others have their own color as well. I simply inform them of one more path.
How cowardly. If I went down the path the voice told me, it would surely be pleasurable. But it wouldn't get me to where I want to go. Thus, I have only one way to go. To tread with all the pain and thirst I have experienced until now, and will suffer through again in the future. Because only I can do it.
It seems we're going to take opposite paths.
Yes, then go your own way. It, too, must be the color of the person you are.
A crown of thorns to shoulder the burdens of those he has lost. A curtain of blood soaked from the violent path he walks. And a sanguine gladius to carve
Sanguine.
it further as he follows his great flow. This is the
Oh, the Ring of Light. Now I remember. Not
While every single one effloresces
now I remember
the
the
same
power
way,
system. It's been a
each
while.
person's tool is a reflection of themselves and what they stand for. But then, what exactly is ego? Well, the full name for it is Extermination of Geometrical Organ. And if that sounds like a nonsense
Interesting.
name, then you've just earned yourself a gold star. Good job. Dante has no idea what the term means. Angela in Library of Ruina simply calls it the physical manifestation of the mind. And
That's just ego.
nobody that's unaffiliated with the Light Project from Lobotomy Corporation even calls this stuff ego. Everyone on the outside calls it psychoment for psychological equipment. Oh, and while I'm at it, yeah, that's a correction from how I described psychoment in the Distortion Detective video. Here's a full breakdown for those that
Yeah, I read that the same as ego in the first read. Then overthought it as ego succeeded when reading for the video, and it just wasn't that deep. My bad.
really care. The ego name itself was coined by Carmen directly, and the closest explanation I can give for why the acronym breaks down this way is from this Reddit user's comment. Read this if you want, but the short version.
So ego is the physical making of consciousness. For abnormality, it is from the collective consciousness. Okay, collective consciousness. For abnormality, it is from abnormality is the monster, right? The ideas, memes, and concepts shared across all humanity brought physical form. Okay. You then wear that ego like a shell where it become part of you. Or a shell or like a mask or something like that. Firstly, I'm 90% sure that extermination of geometrical order is a backronym. I don't know what backronym. I don't have a headcanon for it though. Ego is metaphysical in nature. Yeah, I can see that. Its name is obviously a reference to Freudian psychology with the ego, yeah. With the ego, subego, and it. Yeah, I know this. I know this theory. I know the Freudian psychology. I think geometry has to do with geometrical. Okay, now I don't know. I don't know this. I haven't learned this. Which is a bit weird, and I don't have that deep grasp on. I don't even know. I didn't know that psychology has a geometrical section. What the fuck? This is my first time knowing it. Comment this with organ makes me view it as the organ with the shape of consciousness. Oh, So because consciousness doesn't really exist in what I call, there's literally no organ or any cell or organ in the human body that truly contains consciousness. Like even when you like you can see the brain contains the consciousness in a way, but even when you pick some parts of the what I call it, or like the brain is more about reasoning when I really think about it. Like the brain functions to reason with the world, with how the world works. But for human consciousness, like in a lot of the what I call a lot of the theories said that the what I call from what I see like science explain, and most of all theories like Plato, I think Plato and what I call Aristotle and everything, they always view human consciousness as something that is not something outside. Obviously, consciousness is a metaphysical thing. They treat consciousness as a metaphysical thing, and there's nothing in the organs that truly contains consciousness. That's why some people say that um like I think some people say that we are literally a mecha because we just something like we are just something that is meant that is controlling a biological body in a different realm. I think that's how it is. Someone said or something. Because they compare us to make what called to mechs or robots or something, and consciousness is just something that control is a metaphysical thing that makes you able to control a human biological body or something. Like there's a lot of theories, but I cannot really think about it right now or what called convey words with it because I'm I don't know. I don't have enough thinking power right now. So bringing it all together is a win of the organ that is the shape of the human condition. When you consider what ego is, it makes a bit sense. Yeah. Most likely not a ton thought was put into it what it means. Yeah, there's a chance that there's not they didn't really think about what it means, right? Extermination of a geometrical organ. Hmm. I feel like they just want to call it ego, but they also need to make a term for ego itself. So they choose this as a way to connect ego with scientific what called things with scientific things to psychology. You know, like I don't know, maybe they create the term ego first and then create this term and then it just somehow shows up like this.
That since ego is considered the shell of the mind being given physical form, that shell is considered the geometrical organ that is breaking whenever it's manifested. There's also a potential reference to something called geometric psychology, and I'ma be real, 30 minutes of research into that was more than enough to tell that this is some wild ass pseudoscience. Most likely, PM just wants a funny in-joke that happens to work with their acronym. However, since it's born of the mind, ego can take many forms. Most often, we can see it take the shape of various weapons, conventional or unique, but there have been rare instances where an ego, and distortions for
Well,
that matter,
ego is more related to reason when I really think about it. Yeah, it's not ego doesn't really relate to desires. That is it. Well, and superego is more related to things that you should do, even the things that considered right, which is very hard to be honest. Like superego, I feel like it's way more complicated because um what's right is kind of depends on the environment and what I call yeah depends on the environment and the culture of the world and yeah social culture of the world. Like if social or if society thinks this is right, then the superego will consider this is right. So yeah, in the end, ego, because in psychology, ego is literally the one reasoning with if you should reasoning with what you should do, either it's something good or bad, and they will trying to be the middle ground or trying to be the yeah trying to be the middle ground when it comes to when super ego and it like it decide either the human will do things related to superego or do things related to it.
take the form of a location, the most noteworthy of which is the library, which is revealed to be Angela's own ego at the end of Library of
What, really? What?
Ruina. The only constant is that the shape is predominantly
That's big. The library is her ego? Damn, I didn't know ego can be that big.
of a man-made object, and any physical changes to the person are either aesthetic or in service of using that object. And in most cases, an ego can be activated or withdrawn at will after the first efflorescence. That said, many ego we've been exposed to at length will invoke some kind of mental strain or other limiter that restricts how long it can be active for. And before we go further, there's this connotation that egos had for a while that anyone that's able to manifest it is generally a good guy. Thankfully, that's been
Oh, really?
debunked in the past year. Ahoy! Because as
Oh,
you
okay.
can see in Limbus, manifesting ego just means that you're finding a way to stay true to your own convictions at length.
So not already is good. Like, some people will actually still stay true to themselves, but still being evil, you know? Like, their true self is evil. Like, because I do think that some people are just born, evil in a way. Well, it kind of depends though. Because I've seen cases where the person has in nature wants to do bad things, or it's like a case where in nature they feel pleasure in doing bad things, but because society doesn't allow it, they decide to withhold that desire because they know that it's wrong. Even though it gives them their pleasure and happiness, they will try to contain it because in their mind they able to reason and able to understand that it's wrong and he should not do it. Yeah, there is some cases with it like this. Um so in the end, even if in nature you are evil, you can still be a, but at the end of the day, um the one who to decide who's evil and who's good is depends on the action of the person. Like, just because in nature you're evil doesn't mean you are truly evil, as long as you don't do those actions. Like, I think there's a quote where your, like, in English I think it's called your action, that your desire doesn't justify your action or something like that, or your, yeah, even if you have good desire, just because you have good desire doesn't mean that your bad action justifies it, you know. But yeah.
Instead of giving in to shutting out the world around you. Many of the cases we've seen are of people acting conventionally virtuous, but morality's not the priority here. Because if you truly see your future at its brightest by killing your old friend or harvesting a timepiece to settle a score with a whale, then Carmen's not gonna stop you from getting some toys to play with. At the same time though, this isn't the only way someone can make use of ego. It turns out there are like a half dozen ways someone can get a hold of Psychoment. It's just
Okay, this is new. I didn't know this. Electrocet ego, volatile ego, ego gear, Limbus ego. Okay, it has Limbus in the name. Library ego and fuse ego. I wonder what's the difference.
that the other 5 on this list need some additional context. So now that we've got a handle on the basics of ego, let's go to the other side of the coin and talk about...
Distortions, yeah.
Going back to our previous example, Virgilius had a special talk with Carmen that led to him manifesting his ego. But the current source of his problems, Jumsoon, went the other direction. Instead of rejecting Carmen, he accepted her ideals and embraced seeing the world as his artful, pointillism paradise. Cause, look, it's the Ring. They're only gonna make so much sense on a good day, and this clearly was not one of them. But while we know how Jumsoon made that final leap into becoming a blue-spotted Scaly, his distortion was already progressing even before the events of Leviathan, the story he appears in. In fact, even if over 99% of the city hasn't interacted with Carmen, the vast majority of residents are affected by the distortion. And the evidence comes from an expert on the topic. Moses is the titular
Moses, okay.
distortion detective and main character of her side story. As you might imagine, her job is to understand and mitigate the effects of the distortion phenomenon, which is the name of what causes people to talk with Carmen in the first place. Unlike most people though, Moses is capable of seeing the effects of the distortion others won't. I go more in depth on this story at you get it. But all you need to know here is that under Moses' eyes, every person she encounters shows
It's a she, okay.
some signs of it. For instance, two of her colleagues may either appear to have a mask on their face or bee wings on their back without even needing to fully transform in the way Jumsoon did. And we come to learn that Moses has defined 4 stages for a distortion to take. Those are the incubation period, early stage, middle stage, and terminal stage.
So there's stages in distortion. Interesting. So a person doesn't immediately becomes a monster when they accept the power from, or when they accept the ideals from Carmen.
The incubation period is a fancy way of referring to any normal person in the city. Moses will see small fragments of a distortion in this phase, like the aforementioned mask, but there's no sense of form they have beyond it. All this means is that this person has the potential to distort at some point in their lives. In this state, Moses is still the only person that can see the effects, but it's easier for the traits to be more finite to her. For instance, those bee wings on her colleague Vespa's back would not just be visible to her, but also generate a breeze she can feel. It's also likely that this progressed because Vespa was around the thumb at the time, which causes him to feel an irregular amount of distress. Now, unfortunately, the next 2 stages don't have explanations as Moses was cut off before being able to describe them.
Damn it, bruh.
But we can still make some inferences based on her past experiences. Just know that this may very well change in time. All I ask is for your patience and hey, maybe consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a patron. You ever notice we don't have a consistent source of lore in this community? Sure, there's some channels that make one-offs and literary breakdowns and a half-dozen gameplay channels. All effort well spent, of course. No one can take that away from anyone. But the biggest mission I've got going into 2026 is to make sure we finally have a repository for every major part of Project Moon's world building.
Repository?
Seriously, nobody else is going this hard into the lore, and after doing this for several years now, I really get why, since PM loves being cryptic. But ever since I started getting help with editing these with the Sin and Shin update, that's become all the more possible, and the extra folks subscribing, joining on Patreon, and yeah, becoming members has made a huge difference. We still have a long ways to go, but if you join,
he's
you'll
still
get
talking about the Patreon.
essential credits, and I'll answer your questions in an outro Q&A. In any case, y'all know the drill.
Damn, that's so long. Holy.
I've said my piece, so let's talk about something you're not quite as familiar with, like, say, the paint lizard. The middle stage is most likely the point we see Jumsoon in, where
Jumsoon is in middle stage, okay.
The subject has gone from simply being distressed to surrendering to the influence of Carmen, and now is clearly altered to the common person. This is another instance of their mind taking shape, but instead of tools to supplement them, the entire body is transformed into something typically animalistic or otherworldly. And as Angela mentions in Library of Ruina, the stronger the desires they hold when agreeing with Carmen, the stronger the distortion. It's also worth noting that a single distortion can be made out of more than one person, like in the case of the mock exam and distortion detective. However, it is person. Like, it's also worth noting that a single distortion can be made out of more than one person, like
really?
like in the case of the mock exam and distortion detective. However, it is still very possible for them to revert to their original state unless they progress to the terminal stage. And as the name implies,
Oh shit! So there's still a way to revert back to the lesser stage. Okay, interesting. Only when they go to the lesser to the terminal stage where it's just game over. So in a way, it's kind of like it's kind, you know what it reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of Ethereals in ZZ, where in some cases there is they can turn to monsters, and if they and in certain stages they still can able to be safe and not turn into an ethereal, but if it's too terminal, then yeah. And it also depends on your sensitivity to ether as well. So yeah, that's that too.
This is the stage where there's no going back from being distorted.
Like
Anything beyond
it's like for ZZ,
that
it's more like a biological thing when it comes to how fast you turn into a ethereal. But for this one, it's a desire thing. It relates to your it relates to how you to the way called to the will of the person.
some screwy power system mechanics, so let's put a pin in the terminal stage for now and let them longingly gaze at us. But this means that from the middle stage, there are several directions a person can take. One option is for the person to return to being a regular human. This is typically done by the patient rejecting the idea that made them distort in the first place and either surrendering it or otherwise returning back to their old mentality. Using similar language to ego, this is the process of tearing down the wall they have constructed around their heart. Distortion Detective is full of cases like this, while Limbus Company and Dante have gotten gradually better at this over time, though it's usually served with a healthy dose of blunt force trauma. But then
Blunt
there's
force
this
trauma.
other dynamic at play. See, it's not only possible for someone to get better after distorting, they can outright skip right over to manifesting ego if they've got a big enough change of heart against Carmen. The
Well, really? Damn. So someone who can. Okay, that's interesting. Oh my! Like in terms of narrative, just imagine that the possibilities you can do with that, because like just imagine a distorted person and then he almost become a terminal, and then after like after getting what I call I don't know, getting a wake up call or something, he suddenly changed their mind to the point that it suddenly formed an ego. And then just imagine the epic moment where what I call a terminal what I call a mid stage distortion suddenly forms a powerful ego. Like that would be actually cool.
primary example we have of this is Dong Rong, who initially distorted in Kanto 4. Originally having broken down due to seeing himself undeserving of the vast number of rewards he was given in his time working at K-Corp, he denied that there was any path forward to him and gave himself up to his feelings of emptiness. This is what led to him becoming Dong Rong Who Denies All. But with some percussive maintenance by the LCB, he would evolve that line of thinking and instead commit to his need for recognition in his work, cutting down everyone he knew in the past to manifest his farm wash ego. The first form was born out of feeling a void within himself, while the second came to form when he found a way to move past that void. Now, of course, Dong Rong didn't have a chance to relapse on that choice due to him having a case of very short lifespan, but even if he had lived longer, he wouldn't have had to worry about distorting ever again. Probably. That's because while a person could feasibly distort several times, once a person fully manifests ego, they become totally immune to the
Wait, really? Damn. So interesting. So the moment you form an ego, even if you go back to that mentality state, you will not distort it. Damn.
distortion phenomenon, fully being the key word here, because that leads us into our second form of manifesting ego, volatile ego. Volatile ego are identical to ego
Okay, so this ego is different.
as we know it in most ways. They come from the same Karma interview, they manifest as tools on a person, and they can be retracted at will, well, if the person ever has time to do that anyway. Because unlike the complete manifestation of ego, also called efflorescent ego,
So that's the full manifestation of ego.
the people who manifest volatile ego didn't really commit. Volatile egos
Oh, didn't really commit.
what you get when you reject Carmen, but do so with some doubts in mind. Cases
Oh,
of this
okay.
are exceedingly rare to the point we only have two,
Okay, it's rare.
technically three of them. And the only one most folks are familiar with is the case of Philip. While Philip initially responded to Carmen at his lowest by standing up and saying, "Hey, maybe I am selfish, and it's alright if I'm mad these librarians killed my family," he more so gave himself an argument to ignore Carmen's words rather than reject them. And
Interesting. Damn, I really like the power system. It really shows shows the complexity of the human mind.
Carmen, well, she doesn't take well to half measures. So even if Philip and Phil Claire got their 1,000-degree knives for a bit, nothing was preventing them from being thrown to the clowns and having a bad time. Distortion Detective also has its own example in the case of Ezra.
But so I wonder, like I don't know if this is already in the game already, but I wonder if volatile ego can suddenly change into a full, yeah, a fluorescent, I think I forgot the name, the full ego, if they actually finally commit themselves, or maybe it's always become like
It was
that.
both distorted and later manifested a volatile ego during a fight with Vespa. And the reason we know that her ego is volatile is due to the fact that Moses can still see signs of the distortion on her after it's manifested, unlike on herself or
Damn, Moses is so useful. What the fuck? Why she has such a useful abilities? Like, holy, like she has one of the most useful ability to detect distortion. Like, that's like, in terms of viability, maybe not that much, but I feel like that ability is very useful.
Urea who fully manifested their own ego. Of course, a person is capable of transitioning from a partial or volatile ego state into a full one, so long as
Okay. He confirms my question.
they eventually reject Carmen entirely. But until then, her temptations won't leave their mind so easily. There's good reason it's called a volatile state after all. And just like there are several ways to manifest ego, there's another way to distort someone if you really want to. With the downfall of Lobotomy Corp came two remnants left behind by the wing. The first is the Monoliths. Originally appearing in Distortion Detective, these are black boxes of all sizes that manipulate people's distortions. And their powers are more varied than
interesting.
you might think. Generally speaking, any person that comes into close proximity with the Monolith is immediately at a greater risk of distorting, such is the case with Bamboo-Hatted Kim. In Limbus, the process is as simple as flipping a switch to distort whoever's closest to it. But in Distortion Detective, there are two instances in which a monolith is used which are different from what we've seen in Limbus. The first is a mass distortion of 108 people in the Tai Young Produce Company in N-Corp's backstreets. Here, a white smoke billowed out of the monolith that absorbed incubated and early distortions Moses noticed in these people before creating a giant hulking creature that the team has to destroy. And later on, nearly the opposite happens. A monolith the size of a pebble was used for a monthly ritual sacrifice in Quercus Village. One person would be randomly selected to absorb all of the minor signs of distortion across the whole village until they fully distort, and then get locked in a basement forever.
What the fuck? That's evil as fuck. What? He absorbs all. Oh my god, that's some Jesus shit, bro. Killing, like, what you call, getting killed for everybody's sin. Like, what? He absorbs all that. That's messed up. Unless he willingly consent for it, but damn.
Now, I would judge, but if you're living in District 8, you're basically betting on not falling out of your home every month, so is this really that much worse? All of that is to say that we don't have a full consensus on what all the monolith is capable of and how it works.
Interesting.
But if you gotta distort someone quick, you can absolutely use Carmen at home to do it, or turn them into a Pikachu if they're that much of a pushover. Hell, Limbus Company even sells these things for the right price. However,
What?
there
They
is
say
one
monolith?
major difference in a monolith-caused distortion and a naturally occurring one. The
Okay, there's a
natural ones
difference.
get some privacy. Yeah, according to Kanto
Oh.
6, a distortion caused by talking directly with Carmen and not her little soundboards comes with an emanating force that prevents people from
Damn, that is interesting. Like, do we know more about this distortion or about this monolith? Like, the fact that monoliths can just force someone to just becomes distortion is kinda insane, not gonna lie. Like, what an insane evil contraption.
interfering. But DoorDash distortions here ain't protected, which is why Merceau can cut the signal Long Du caught onto in Yowieville. Oh, and technically, we don't know for sure that the efflorescent immunity applies to monoliths. Look, it probably does. All I'm saying is that no one's really efflorescent immunity onto in Yowieville. Oh, and technically, we don't know for sure that the efflorescent immunity applies.
Oh, we don't know wait, what? Really? Like, we know that efflorescent ego is immune to distortion, but we don't know if monolith can actually break the immunity. Oh my.
To monoliths. Look, it probably does. All I'm saying is that no one's really
She didn't seem affected by it. Okay.
tried to target a naturally made ego user with a tungsten McDonald's kiosk. But hey, I'm sure some curious fella in District 20 is more than capable of finding out. Let's move away from dark industry, though, and get to the more natural-looking second remnant of Lobotomy Corporation, the Golden Boughs.
Oh yeah,
And,
Golden
Let's
Boughs.
throw out another quick spoiler.
Like, isn't this? Oh fuck. Well, I don't think I know that much of the story to actually even know.
Warning. The Golden Boughs are, in short, the essence of L-Corp's technology. And considering
Okay.
how we could easily call L-Corp Light Corp, they have some effects. But there have been several occasions where a person has transformed significantly under their influence in a similar manner to distorting. Now, the wiki may claim that whatever happened with Cromer was her distorting, but I'm not convinced. These transformations don't really match the trends set by ego and distortions as we know them. Again, one's more industrial, showing products of human invention, even if nature is involved in some way, and the other is more about the human totally losing themselves to something alien, animalistic, and tends to remove the original human from the design. These though, honey, these are Cronenbergs. These are the people with the bow getting more and more human shoved into the same body and design. Sure, they come with some accessories, but even with only Cromer and Jamu as
This one looks insane.
examples, it feels to me like this is a third category of transformation. Some kind of wild-ass monkey's paw modification closer to whatever made Tamari or the puppets. But to be thorough, there is a single mention of the word distortion in Jamu's passives, so this very well could count. But at the time of writing, the Golden Boughs are still screwy and undefined enough that I'm gonna call this a toss-up. And with that, we have now covered every means in which a person can distort and recover from it. All that's left is to pull out that pin from earlier. Jesus Christ, wait, you
Oh, this thing. Ah, I forgot.
bleed from there? Alright, hold on, I got this. Can we get a blood bag on aisle 6? Thank you! Alright, so let's talk about how distortion gets worse.
The terminal stage. Oh yeah, the terminal stage. So,
As mentioned, the terminal stage is a point of no return for distortions where they can no longer transform back, and is not specifically defined in canon. So, yeah, we're extrapolating here. But there are 2 instances in Project Moon where someone has double-dipped their distortion. The first
what?
at the very end of Library of Ruina. The Reverberation Ensemble is a syndicate made up of mostly distorted people and the Blue Reverberation himself.
wait, what?
After their first failed attempt to take over the library, the Ensemble are the first to be released from it in Angela's Giant Apology Light Show Jamboree. And due to their proximity and, let's say, appreciation for the light, they're the only instance of a character double distorting in Project Moon. Other than the designs being choice.
Double distorting? How does that work? What? What? You can. Okay, that's interesting. They can layer the distortion.
Is all get out, and all the more extreme
Distortion times 2, I guess.
Something that would usually happen. It's closer to a contamination than a conventional part of the distortion life cycle. In other words, if they spawned out in District 21 like the Molar office did, there's a strong chance these guys would have appeared in the same way they came in. But even if that were the case, they could have still transformed again without any need of the light. And that's because all distortions eventually succumb to one fate. Some parties claim that it's only a matter of time passing, while others think that a distortion will only last until its deeply held worldview is shattered a second time. But every terminal distortion is destined to become an abnormality.
Oh yeah, finally, abnormality. I don't know what that is.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. All distortions are destined to become... Woo, yeah! Ain't no way we can cover everything about ego and distortions without getting the SCP involved, know what I mean? Abnormalities may as well be the third leg of Project Moon's light power system, since both ego and distortions are ingrained deeply into it in some way.
So I guess you would say abnormality is the higher level. What about ego? Does ego can become as strong as abnormality? But I don't know if abnormality will mean that they will become stronger.
Oh, it's only fitting that we include an in-depth look into how they work too. With that in mind, y'all ever brew a cup of coffee with a pour over and then pour the coffee back into it so that it's double caffeinated? Yeah, from the evidence at hand, that's pour the coffee back into it. With that in mind, y'all ever brew a cup of coffee with a pour over and then pour the coffee back into it so that it's double caffeinated?
Wait, what? It can be double cap. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, for the evidence at hand, that's what abnormalities are like to distortions. They're doubling down on rejecting humanity. Originally introduced in Lobotomy Corp, abnormalities are creatures that, with some exception, were all once human, but due to a variety of light-related chicanery, became creatures that may share some traits with the people they originally were, but contain no real features that may share some traits with the people
So
they
that is Red Riding Hood? What the hell? Damn, Red Riding Hood do be looking scarier.
originally were, but contain no real thoughts or memories of the original human and happen to all be.
What the fuck? It's holding a gun! It's holding a gun! That looks insane.
Immortal. Yeah, anytime these suckers are killed, they turn into eggs and eventually reform back into their original state.
What? Okay? What the fuck? Okay.
As for how they're made, well,
So how do we kill it? Or are they just cannot be killed? If that's the case, damn. I guess they really need, the only way to counter is to contain them.
let's go back to our familiar example. So, Virgilius again, as we know, he got ego, Jumpsoon got a fancy distortion, and then they fought. In this fight, Verge quickly deals a blow so pinpoint accurate that it was enough to shake Jumpsoon and challenge his worldview again. And all he can do is just stand there, expressionless. Verge, not wanting to be reckless, waits. And they wait, and they wait, and they wait, until two giant saw blades and an impossibly large metal body erupt from Jumpsoon's stomach and start threatening Verge and Jumpsoon's
What? That's so sudden.
place. This is the only instance we have of a distortion becoming an abnormality. And in
Oh.
case I was too vague before, yes, the attack Verge landed really did do enough psychic damage to disturb him and didn't just cause this Abno to appear because he was defeated. I'm sparing you those details because it's an entire anime action scene argument about dots. But from this, we can see where one source of abnormalities lies. Jumpsoon was a man who was obsessed with being able to observe everything, including every possibility in existence. The abnormality he became, commonly known as Schadenfreude, is best defined by having an
Well, I
oppressive
heard that
gaze
word
without
before.
even needing to look someone's way. It's Philandersization as a power-up. And while I have thoughts on the implications of this, there's a bigger elephant in the room. Hey, Future Frey here. I actually want to talk about those implications now because this scene throws up a major question about abnormalities. Remember back when we were talking about how you could go 3 ways when you get into panic mode in the city? Well, the first method, becoming a Pacachula, is for people that can't even distort or manifest ego. And one of the major
Okay.
differences in these guys is that they are largely generic. Outside of falling into one of the several sin categories they have, they aren't any kind of unique transformation at all. And the reason that's important is because all throughout Lobotomy Corp and Limbus Company, it's both heavily implied and explicitly stated that every abnormality is unique. You don't get 2 people transforming into the same one. Now, there's arguments to be made about what is and isn't a reliable narrator in this context, but if the game is going to keep up with this narrative for this long, I feel like it's reasonable to say that they intended for that to be true. Since Schadenfreude was an abnormality that existed in Lobotomy Corporation and the events of Leviathan take place after the wing fell, this implies that abnormalities being unique isn't some kind of rule. And just to further complicate things, Leviathan even has Verge's own internal monologue act like a setup to Jumpsoon making this transformation. So what, does that mean that one of these two is wrong about how abnormalities work?
Okay.
Maybe, but there could be another answer. One that still says that all abnormalities are unique.
So he's just talking about information about abnormalities. One of them, because some dialogues say that all abnormalities is unique, but for some reason Jumsun and the other thing is considered considered the same. And but then they say doesn't abnormality cannot be killed. So what if that thing in Lobotomy Corp is actually the same character as the character in Leviathan. That's what I think at least. If they want to stay with the narrative that all abnormalities are unique, you can just say that that thing is actually the same abnormality that we saw in Leviathan, but I don't know.
And that distortions can become abnormalities if they're mentally.
So they just and so right now he's just talking about the contradiction of the information, right? And because the particulars, I don't know what that word is. They are just what I call beings that unable to decide, unable to manifest ego and distortion, and they just become that.
In a second time. For that to happen, we just need to say that this isn't what happened with Jumsoon. And boy, I didn't think we'd be talking about this guy so much, but his reason for distorting factors hard into why he could summon out Schadenfreude. This guy, he is obsessed with the multiverse and observing every possible reality out there. And when he distorted, all of the dots he created on his body are meant to show people visions of these mirror dimensions just like he wanted. So it's possible that
Damn. Okay. His powers is interesting.
in a moment of despondency, he could have pulled out of one of these infinite possibilities an abnormality that was similar to him, kind of like
Oh, so he wants to talk about. Okay, interesting.
a certain bus we all know about. It just happened that this thing was violent enough to give him the worst C-section imaginable and be the last thing Jumsoon ever did. Is it just a theory? Oh, absolutely. But
Yeah,
if the
it's just a theory.
alternatives are that abnormalities just aren't unique, which makes them feel much less interesting in my opinion, or that Leviathan is wrong, which would also suck. This
Yeah.
feels like the explanation that makes the most sense. Not total sense, but the most. Anyway, that's my rant. We got plenty.
That does make sense. I didn't know that his ability is related to the multiverse or possibilities, and so in a way, he just picked a version of him that might actually become that. Yeah, I think so.
Any more to talk about. Because this ain't the way most of y'all have been told that abnormality has come into existence, is it? These guys have three ways of being born, let's say.
Okay.
The first, we've already covered. The second is what led to the vast majority of abnormalities to come into existence. That would be refining the river's waters with what would become Lobotomy Corp's own technology and, unfortunate learning experiences to become the bucket. This bucket,
Oh, the
which
bucket.
happens to be the soup using the nerve broth of Carmen, would be the means the team refined the river water into a substance called cogito, so it would no longer kill humans when injected. The company's business model would then revolve around injecting that refined cogito from the bucket into comatose humans, which would transform them into abnormalities as we know them. This is in part why Carmen is called the mother of all abnormalities, and is still the origin of 90% of abnormalities in existence. Then there's the last source.
Yeah, both ways are still related to to Carmen.
So funny thing about LobCorp, abnormalities coming from people is supposed to be this big mid to late game twist. And up until then, the cover was that they just found abnormalities out in the wilderness and started containing them one day. Well, it turns out there was a kernel of truth to that, because that's where the last category of abnos come from. Sometimes, there are gaps in the rivers which lead to oddities naturally forming, and some abnos formed in the areas where those gaps were present. The best example of these is the three birds that were originally in the Black Forest. Speaking
Okay.
of, some abnormalities can also come as a set or theme, even having offshoots that were once called aberrations, but no longer use that name for legal reasons. And we're gonna
Legal
glaze
reasons?
right over that because outside of the birds, there's little to no reason for any of these things to exist. The Magical Girls in Oz crew weren't some kind of after-school club pre-cogito. The closest we have is the duos which have their own light explanations. Yin and Yang from LobCorp talk like they're the same being that was split and were always abnormalities, while the Merc and the Wolf here
Interesting. So there's abnormalities that doesn't even relate to human. Interesting.
imply that the original Merc could have known the original Wolf when she was 15. But this is hardly enough to make a rule or pattern with.
Or I guess you can say, like, for what I've seen, isn't that he said that there is abnormalities that doesn't relate to Carmen? Like the bucket is related to Carmen, right? And the other one, which is getting whispered, everything is related to Carmen. But this one is because of the of the leaks, or not leaks, the gaps of the river being what you call maybe expose some of this power to the environment or something, and suddenly it causes abnormalities. So the river is going to create abnormalities either way, even without Karma's what you call intervention.
Consider those mysteries that we may get the answer to later in life. Instead, how about we address the hard work that researchers have put into understanding abnormalities? Because look, we've already gone this far, and I sure as hell am not gonna go back a year later and re-explain abnormalities unless something major drops. So we're just gonna go the whole 9 yards today and talk about classifications. These are the funny little ciphers that act as the clinical name for the abnormality to all the suits. And hey, I get it. If LobCorp's gonna play cabin in the woods, they may as well have an easy way to tell how useful or dangerous each monster is. As such, classifications are broken down into two components. You've got your risk levels and then your classification codes. Risk levels are the part you're probably more familiar with. They're the color-coded Hebrew tier list that tells you how strong something is and how much energy it produces. It's a system so good they slapped it onto other kinds of ego too, though, say it with me, we'll get to those in due time. Yeah! The weakest level is Zayin and refers to the mostly safe abnormalities.
Okay.
These guys will usually stay in their little boxes in LobCorp and can be either beneficial for the agents that work with them, or have the kindness to raise 12 flags before you're at risk of someone dying. Though fans of The Last Supper may challenge that notion. Tact is the next level up, and when abnormalities start breaking out and need some...
I wonder what these names are based on. Now, because we know that there's so many biblical what I call inspiration in what I call in some of the monsters here.
tough love before they start working again. They might kill an agent or two if they're fresh or unprepared, but you're probably fine if you've got that one weirdo that likes kicking murderers, crayon drawings, children, dogs. Okay, maybe that's just causing a different problem entirely. Hey, abnormalities are those moving around that aren't a huge issue to experienced managers, but can cause major problems for everyone else. They'll break out and often cause some more environmental or gimmicky effects. I mean, look at these three. You're really gonna tell me you're bolting hard at the idea of taking them, you disgusting little caterpillar? Yeah, I'm talking to you! Get out! Have some respect for the veterans! Vav abnormalities are my personal favorites. They're strong enough to be a risk for an entire department's worth of agents, but make significantly more energy on average. The only trouble is that these abnos and above are at a power level that make them harder to manage when interacted with repeatedly. So you can't get by by just having reliable agents to keep them contained. And personally, I think it's more fun to let the reverse shark boy go water skiing every once in a while. Lastly, we have Aleph abnormalities. They're the rarest and greatest threat to their surroundings. Between being the living embodiment of a pandemic, the worst horse imaginable.
What the fuck is this? Censored? A censored horse? Wow, they do be creative with their creatures design.
Or just a nice little dog that gets so excited to see you every once in a while. That's all it is. All of these are capable of destroying a facility single-handedly. Hell, some of them may even leave you wishing it was destroyed. Either way, if you see the word Aleph on something, take it seriously. Oh, what? Now you're stealing valor? There are only 2 good Aleph dogs in this world, and you are not one of them. This thing's barely even a hay, considering that it's a Kanto 1 boss that needs 2 forms and a
It's a Kanto 1 boss? Okay.
scripted event to get a single kill. Get the hell out of here!
I feel this is spoilers or something. I don't know why.
Though to be fair, that's kind of the trend for non-LobCorp abnormalities. In Limbus, the first abnormality of the Sinner's fight is a Vav, but its strength level doesn't match up at all with these interpretations. Now, that's in part because LobCorp had a means to keep abnormalities, let's say, eepy for now. And as the first abno the LCB faced, they were still shaking off some of that grogginess. But the thing is that LobCorp made these risk levels factoring in a lot of criteria. It wasn't just the risk of death, though that often correlated, but also the amount of energy and capacity the abnormality had to escape that led to them getting these rankings. So in a world where we don't really care about energy, and the abnormalities have escaped by default, well, the math just wasn't adding up anymore. Thankfully, the LCE managed to do something about that. Near the top of this year, we got an extra number to the right of the risk level that is specifically for combat purposes. It runs on a 1 to 8 scale right now, and almost certainly has a higher cap as we keep going through the Inferno. 1 represents an abnormality that's basically harmless. In lore, I cannot see that enough. To 8, which is abnormalities that are easily a threat to most people. Again, even this won't reflect exactly in gameplay, but hey, it's not like any of us are strangers to Project Moon having vague rules with exceptions now, is it? Which brings us to the classification codes. These are the funny 4 sets of characters that are beside the risk level. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it,
Wow.
we don't really know what half of these are. The GG Wiki suggests that the 4th set is just there so that no 2 abnormalities have the same code, and the LogCorp Wiki has some inklings about what the second characters are, but nothing conclusive. But beyond that, we'll have to make do for the 1st and 3rd row for now. The first set is a reference to the source or origin of the abnormality, kind of like the theme. F is for abnormalities that are connected to folklore and legends. T is
Folklore
for
legends,
mainly
trauma.
related to
Oh,
experiences from within the city
trauma,
itself.
folklore
N is
legends.
allegedly for mythology.
Mythology.
At least that's what tracks for the Doomsday calendar.
Okay, F folklore legend. T trauma. M mythology. Okay.
And then O is a catch-all for everything else, whether they're naturally born abnos or simply aren't associated to the first 3 categories. And I guess there's also D for the donor abnormalities.
Donor?
Lobotomy Corp. That's less of a lore thing and more of a funny little Easter egg, so good job being a part of history, I guess. You'll use these to get an idea of what the pre-abno person went through, and researchers can use these to see what kinds of employees would work best with them. Then the 3rd code is connected to where the abnormality is from, namely the district. This one's kinda iffy because it bounces
district.
between being where the LCB originally saw them and where the abno itself is from. Like, the Fairy Festival's a great example where the LCB technically fought it in the library in District 12, but since that was during Season 4, it got the code 20 representing T-Corp. I don't know, it's pretty consistent overall, so maybe we'll get another overhaul someday. At the same time, ain't nothing wrong with theory crafting, because much like old crackpot theories, abnormalities themselves into their surroundings at that. Have you ever noticed that when you fight an abnormality in a mirror dungeon, that you're in a space that seems to be perfect for it? That's no coincidence. Given time to
Interesting.
settle in any given space, an abnormality will change its environment to fit its needs.
Oh.
We've seen this not only in the various dungeon encounters, but also in the 3rd Walpurgis night, where the LCB sees the
Walpurgis,
Fairy
ooh.
Festival after it's had time
What's
to
Walpurgis
steep
again?
itself inside of a book.
I don't-
The only reason this
I
didn't
heard that
happen in
word from
Lobotomy Corp
slime
is
before.
because each of those mongrels were kept inside a clip-off deterrent containment unit. That's a fancy name for the system the Wing had that would make the abnos lethargic and not as ready to attack
Oh,
people
the
so long
fish,
as they
the
could be
yin-yang
kept in their
fish.
cubby holes. As you all know, it wasn't perfect. You can't totally suppress them, and each abno takes their painkillers differently. But since the company needed to extract energy from their minds, abnormalities couldn't be made totally comatose when employees
The
worked
king
them.
of greed.
If they did, it would
Interesting.
defeat the purpose of generating those energy boxes in the first place. And that will just not do, because those boxes are how we get to our 3rd kind of ego.
Okay. Ego gear. Yeah.
Do you have
Finally.
enough clothing to whisper to you? Have you thought of owning a gun that runs on intrusive thoughts? Are you a furry into mind break? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you would get some use out of Ego Gear, the product of giving the mind of abnormalities physical form and refining it into stable tools. Keep that definition in mind.
So,
It'll
so ego gear is just made of abnormality.
important later. But simply put, Lobotomy Corp would use the energy generated from the abnormalities to process better gear for
Okay, never mind. They just use the energy, not made the ego, made the abnormality into a ego weapon like Kaiju number 8 or something. So they just use the energy, what called, generated by them to, and then I guess that energy probably has some qualities or characteristic of that, of the abnormality, and that's why it looks different. Interesting.
their employees. One pool of energy goes to the public, and another pool is kept and labeled with the specific abno's name. The more a specific abnormality was worked with, the more weapons and armor it could
Like
create.
Hubble.
The only catch is that it comes with the abnormality you're living rent-free in your head for as long as you're using it. But is that really so bad?
So those, wait.
Living rent-free in your head for as long. The only catch is that it comes with the abnormality you're living rent-free in your head for as long as you're using it. But is that really so bad? Unlike Carmen, the abnormality won't try to have a full-blown conversation with you to get you
So it's just okay, interesting. I guess it's better than Carmen whispering to you, I guess.
to do something.
Well, if you able to get the ego, like if you become a full ego, then Carmen won't whisper to you anymore, so...
It may drone on and wax poetically like a video essayist, but hey, they're just stimming. This is a one-sided chat. They're not gonna respond to anything you say and will just keep repeating the same ideas over and over. So as long as you can tune out the ever-present brain rot between your ears, you'll be fine. But if you're just not able to find peace, or you get the gear of an Abno that's way out of your league, then the equipment will start
Oh my god.
to wear you instead.
Ooh.
Ego corrosion is the name of this phenomenon, and the
Oh,
longer
interesting.
you use an ego gear, the more susceptible you are to succumbing to it. We've seen a few cases of this, like in the oh-so-pitiful talisman Sinclair, who got so obsessed with cursing people that an engineer had to take his crayons away. Lean too far into those intrusive thoughts, and the corrosion will consume you in no time. But if you have a good amount of temperance, you can stave off the consequences and have more minor symptoms, like with LCEE Song. His corrosion's more of a quirk and has him taking on some of the mundane traits of the Fey Lantern's ego, like pulling pranks and luring people over to him with fairies.
Oh.
In time, or another user that's less capable of blocking out those thoughts, you'll eventually need to take it off if you want to keep your sense of self. Tally Sinclair's Uptie story really puts it best. It may only be natural that using someone else's mind like a tool gradually assimilates yours into it. But what if I told you there was one instance where the person consumed the abnormality instead?
Oh.
That would be our fourth kind of ego. And it belongs to none other than...
The Red Mist.
way back to before ego, distortions, and LobCorp as we knew it ever existed, Carmen and her team were in the middle of testing the effects of Cogito and managed to extract a sword from a person using it. And while that could imply that abnormalities existed even back then, I'm sure there's nothing we need to worry about. All that's important is that Carmen got this sword with red flesh and giant staring eyes and gave it to a woman named Kali. Consider her the head of security for the research team. Now, Kali was a force in her own right. Raised in the backstreets, still with hope and morality and shit, with a lot of power to back it up. Like body, like mind, she was able to stave off the thoughts coming from this mimicry sword and make use of it to both protect who she cared about and further Carmen's research. But then, the voice evolved. It wasn't trying to convince Kali of anything, of course, but it gradually went from speaking in grinding noises to actual words. And eventually, it spat out a specific question.
Don't you desire a human shell as well?
Already pushing away the mundane thoughts as is, this question led her to reconsider her life choices. Even if Kali never provoked anyone, she undoubtedly had to cut many people down for the sake of self-defense and to protect those around her. And that begged the question, was her one life really worth all of the lives lost in turn? And for only a moment, she considered that if she kept washing away blood with blood, all that would be left of her is a blood-stained shell. She collapsed. Her body fell, but her mind didn't. Kali was already told from the get-go that if she let the weapon overwhelm her, she would be in danger. From Carmen's words, she remembered her promise. Those honest, virtuous eyes she always held. No matter how much she was publicly mocked for her vision, or how much those around her would fear, Carmen never stopped looking ahead to lead them all the same. If Kali could protect a person like that, just one person, then maybe the world around her could change in turn. Soon, her thoughts began to clear, her body began to burn, and before she knew it, she was no longer at risk of losing herself to the sword, and was coated in solid armor. The ego gear now with her own shell being given physical form, she would finally manifest a dense, red mist. And the rest? Well, the rest is history. All that to say, there's a way to turn an abnormality's ego into your own. The process seems to involve either efflorescing your own ego while using the gear, or having your conflict be brought on by the abnormality itself. All we can really say is that this fused ego is the only efflorescent manifestation that doesn't need you to talk with Carmen directly. Or at least, talk with her in the moment. And if that's the case, for all we know, the Monoliths might be putting you in touch with someone else too. Voiceless or not though, this just goes to show that ego of any kind fall under the same name for a reason. But that isn't to say they're made equally. Because it's not like we're done talking about ego gear. No, we got 3 different companies that tried their hand at making it. And you can bet your depressed, morning, sun-showered ass that each comes with their own.
Oh, there's companies that try to make ego weapon, okay.
works. So, how about we start off with All Reliable?
Lobotomy Corp Ego Gear.
Yeah, that All Reliable name isn't a joke, because Lobotomy Corp Ego are the most stable of all three kinds of ego gear we know. Anybody can pick up these babies, try them out in the hallway, and generally have a good grip on them. They're also the ones that are the least prone to corrosion. Now, a part of that is because they intentionally keep their form as gear instead of allowing the tools to leach into the user. And while corrosion itself can do that, LobCorp was thoughtful and strict enough to know that certain employees shouldn't use certain calibers of gear and didn't let their agents go overboard. They're also the only ego gear we know of that are confirmed by Bina to be claimable as their own ego by the user. Of course, none of the employees in the wing were capable of this. That's why the Red Mist is the only case of this happening up to now. But all in all, you can think of these things as a safe, reasonable sedan. It may not be sexy, but it'll do the job, and you can tell what you're getting into with it. And just like driving a regular car, you're eventually gonna share the road with someone blaring their custom horn and an engine louder.
Nice analogy. I think I understand.
That kind of ego we like to call
LCE Ego.
Perfect truths about the LCE, it's that they're the biggest geeks in Project Moon so far, and more extra than Verge during the Wild Hunt. Getting a hold of a few of the Abnos from an L-Corp branch, these guys saw some of the research from the Wing's ego gear and said, nah,
damn, all of them Verge classes.
They kinda did. While these ego aren't capable of plugging and playing, allowing the user to claim them and have a higher risk of corrosion, the LCE gear trades that in for a little mechanic called attunement. At any point, the wearer of these ego can take on additional traits of the abnormality, like the wings LCE Faust has with her Ardor Blossom Star ego gear. This can be done by the user understanding and maintaining a higher level of empathy for the abnormality to allow the gear to have a greater influence on them.
So understanding is needed.
We usually see this in the animations on the IDs, but it's in this greater amount of control that the LCE wanted to make ego gear feel more like ego itself. Just don't try to stay in that higher attunement level for too long. The only reason this works, after all, is because you're allowing the abnormality to have more influence over you. So if you don't want to corrode quickly, you better know when to shut that off. Unfortunately, the LCE's already lost a chunk of researchers that went the way of Icarus and exploded into well-braised, bite-sized pieces. But if nothing else, I gotta appreciate the risk-reward nature of these ego and would probably
it's a double-edged sword then.
Version over any of the other kinds. But there does come an issue when an inventor either has too much fun when designing ego gear or just had too much to drink. And we can kind of see that in
and Corp Ego
Gear. Compare these to a car. These Ego Gear are the 50-year-old antique that looks like it's a pain to drive, but has that near-zero turning radius that makes it hard to totally write it off if you're mad enough to swerve with it and shoot your friends with a gun. N-Corp's Ego Gear has more in common with the LCE than
that looks cool, what the hell?
You can't just throw it on and expect everything to work. We may only have 3 examples at the time of writing, but all of them come with the passive Ego Corrosion N-Corp, which causes the user to lose SP, get stronger, and eventually take damage the longer the fight goes on. On top of that, the Hater Boys get their own extra passives that technically can make them stronger, but are debuffs 90% of the time. So we can see from the text of both of these that you're gonna have an especially bad time using these ego when you're starting out, but on the bright side, they at least count as having some kind of attunement. Just don't mix up the volatile on the passive for the Philip and Ezra kind. At the time of writing, they're totally unrelated. Now, we may not know a ton about these ego, but there are some theories as to how they came to form. The predominant one being that N-Corp made use of alternative methods to quickly jerry-rig ego gear together for the sake of keeping up in their arms race against the LCB. Whatever they did though, it sure feels like the kind of homework a kid submits by spending the night schmoozing up ChatGPT, if you know what I mean. Then again, maybe the AI really is taking human jobs. Yeah, these ego have one perk that the other 2 companies really could do with. They give the wearer plot armor. As stated in the fight, neither Juan the Grabby Gawker or Goo Buckshot Roulette here can die. They just get some kind of force field that seems really handy for every ego gear.
That's kind of broken.
My best guess as to how they do this is that N-Corp has some separate tech for their League of 9 to use based on N-Corp Ryoshu's Uptie story, so it might be an extra tool installed on top of their ego instead of a trait specific to N-Corp's ego gear itself. I mean, after all, the sticking goons didn't have that luxury. So if you're in the market for some kind of weaponry and really don't mind the golden suit giving you a complex if it means surviving a gunshot,
Dude,
this could be an ego
it looks cool though.
for you. Far be it for me to judge someone's fashion choices. But what if you're not really in tune with an abnormality, but just want a little bit of that juice they got? A freaks with benefits one-off deal, if you will. Well, you might want to consider whether you have commitment issues. Again, judgment-free zone. But there is still a kind of ego that'll help you out.
Ego gifts.
If you really think about it, empty Abno encounters are just mini visual novels with a fight or flight mechanic. And you might have noticed that both in story and when grinding, that each of these Abnos comes with their own personal ego gift. Hey, sometimes several! These are little trinkets that share some traits with the abnormality they're from, and they appear in some form across all 3 games. Cause even if Library of Ruin is playing coy about it, their battle symbols are basically ego gifts. While they may have different ways they're used and obtained, all ego gifts are pretty literal in nature. You get these by doing something that makes the abnormality become fond enough of you to give you a present. And in exchange for not being as potent, there's no risk of corroding. It's pretty fitting, considering how much these things are obsessed with their one fixation. No wonder they'd be happy to share it. In Limbus, the process of getting a gift is pretty simple. Make the right dialogue option with the right stats, and pop goes the brazen bolt. You've got a fancy new coin.
So it's gonna like relic or artifacts from relics from what you call from IS in Arknights, or other relics in other like simulated universe in HSR or anything.
If you've got rest
It's
intentions
just
to make
items
nice,
that gives you
you could make
buffs.
the burning torture victim watch you and all of your friends drink water, get them to attack you, and then steal not only the coin, but the essence of their pain itself. You fucking sociopath. That kind of behavior wouldn't fly at all in LobCorp proper. Like with the ego gear, you can get gifts by doing work with the abnormality, but these instead have a low % chance to drop and give you some little accessories. Yes, ma'am, you get that hairpin. Yes, sir, you rock that monocle. Both of those will look great on your resume, especially when I need someone to handle the most insufferable sounds known to man. They'll give minor buffs to agents and change their appearance slightly. Now, while I can't discount the buffs for being functional, I personally consider the appearance change to be the more useful aspect. Solely because any agent that's gotten chummy with one of these Abnos is usually a good fit to be assigned to them in the long term. But then again, LobCorp's the only game where rapid decision making is important, so we can think about more than numbers.
I guess that makes sense. If you have get a gift from them, obviously you're going to let them do the abnormalities since they have a higher affinity to get close to them.
And while everyone's favorite basement arbiter says that having a large number of ego gifts on your person at once can cause you to start losing your sense of self, we haven't seen anything of the sort up to now. But
Okay.
hey, never say never, right? And then there's the case of that quirky gated community in the outskirts. Battle symbols are basically Library of Ruina's ego gift replacements. They're closer to LobCorp's ego gifts in that they're gotten from repeated use of an abnormality's pages. Library of Ruina's got a funky setup where they've got abnormalities, they're just kept in books and only their essence leaks out. So their influence is limited enough that the battle symbols only work 5% of the time. And I guess that makes sense since these are basically homeopathic abnormalities, and for good measure, battle symbols aren't limited to abnormalities in LOR. Again, the library is a freaky place where anyone put into books follows similar rules, so these are more ego gifts and association than gifts proper. Now that all said, this literary chicanery is what allows for the 5th kind of ego to appear. That's the book manifestations. These are ego specifically ego to appear. That's the
The library ego, finally. So we already talked about all these egos. Limbus ego? No, Limbus ego hasn't. Fuse ego is... which one again? Is the red mist again based on this image.
book manifestations. These are egos specifically from the library, where the amount of light has been realized enough on the floor with high enough emotional energy for the abnormality to feel comfortable, making a more physical appearance in the fight. In other words, it takes a lot of energy to make the vibes right where it's willing to come out. Making use of these is a major effort, and the library's receptions last only for a few seconds and regularly needs to be recharged with more emotion after its use. But what separates it from all other kinds of ego is that any person that's aligned with the library can use it as long as they're in the right floor. Now, it's actually a funny case where one person's ego is what allows for dozens of other people to make use of other ego. That itself makes it pretty unique, if you ask me. While we're at it, let's stop teasing and give y'all the final. One person's ego is what allows for dozens of other people
One person's ego?
to make use of other ego. That itself makes it pretty unique, if you ask me.
Oh, okay.
While we're at it, let's stop teasing and give y'all the final kind of ego, which the Limbus onlys are the most familiar with. Limbus Company's Sinner ego are the sixth and final we know about
Oh, we finally get here.
as of now. And they can be split up into two subcategories. There's the base ego and the mirror ego.
Mirror
And to
ego?
talk about the mirror ego, we need to make a final detour to explain a little topic I like to call the entire multiverse, also known
Okay.
as.
The mirror, okay.
This topic can and should take up a whole video, so let's keep today's version simple. Remember how the original river was called the primordial sea of possibility?
Yes.
Well, that extends to worlds beyond, since multiverses exist in the world of Project Moon. They're called
Okay.
mirror dimensions, mainly because the main way they're witnessed is through technology that
Mirror dimensions kind of reminds me of. Do you guys know when Doctor Strange used the mirror dimension to what you call it, to save himself from a black hole that's sent by Thanos? And I kind of remember there's a mirror in a cave in Pokemon where Ash, or I think it's Ash. No. Yeah, is it Ash? I don't know which character. No, yeah, Ash. Ash accidentally swapped place with a different with an alternate version of him that is a coward, and it is in XY. Yeah, I remember this.
works and acts like mirrors. And ever since they were discovered by innocent beige scientists and others, people started to find ways to pull matter from the other mirror worlds into our own. Two of these inventors decided.
Oh, I wonder if the mirror thing is because from like I heard a lot that the gacha is based on versions of the different alternate versions of the character, right? So I would assume that maybe the gacha is based on using the mirror to get that version of themselves.
To try and merge one of these mirrors with a bus that runs on Green Blood Feast and made a way to extract possibilities from other worlds. While we don't know exactly how these work, the ego that are extracted are given to sinners that have something in common with the abnormalities they belong to. That's probably because Mephistopheles has an easier time pulling from possibilities that reflect more likely timelines, though that rule seems to be tested more as time goes on. Much like other abnormality-based ego, they work by making the emotions or identity of the abnormality their own, borrowing their power by walking in their shoes. In practice, these abnormal psychoment-based ego, as the LCA calls them, work in a similar manner to the Library of Ruina ego, costing sin resources and SP instead of direct light and emotion. Like those ego, they only last for a moment, but they come with their own perks and risks. Unlike the library's ego, these can be used anywhere and more often since sin resources are more plentiful to generate and SP is functionally infinite. The only downside of not having enough SP is that the ego will risk the sinner corroding and playing a game of friendly fire instead. Though sometimes even that can be turned into the LCB's favor. The point is, once you incorporate light with enough technology in the existence of mirror dimensions, the exact mechanics of how ego work get much more complex very fast. So I can't really
makes
blame
sense.
anyone that's trying to explain the PM power system for leaving it to the essentials. But since we've come this far, I'd like to ask you to now imagine a kind of ego that has all three of these traits and has that last Project Moon seasoning, LTNC. Little to no context. That is how you get the base sinner ego. Now, I'm not complaining about the lack of info.
Base sinner
Back in
ego?
the pre-Limbus days, you'd be lucky to get context that was in coherent English, let alone comprehensive. But we know next to nothing about the sinner's own ego other than their efflorescent ego in that they can be manifested at will, like mirror ego since they take sin resources, like volatile ego since they don't stop the sinners from corroding, and like the ego gear since they don't need any kind of interaction with Carmen to exist. And while these comparisons are fun, all else we know about these is that they're likely the sinner's own since no abnormalities exist to reflect them. We'll probably see more over time, but the facts are, this is all the info we have right now. And as it stands, The same's true for other parts of PM's power system. The golden boughs, the mirror dimensions, and the sign. They're all different
The
enough that
sign?
they may need
What?
their own tour, but it's hard to say that they're the exact same system.
Oh my god,
so
so
with
much
that, I am
concept.
happy
Oh.
to say we have finally made it through every single facet of Project Moon's light-based power
Oh
system.
my god, when I play Limbus Company, I really need everybody to actually dip in the information. Holy. Like, this is an hour long video. Oh my. I don't even remember some parts of the the video that we watched last time, because it's been like a month since I watched a Limbus Company video.
That's 6 flavors of ego, 4 flavors of distortion, 3 kinds of technology, and if I had to guess, 600,000 people starving in District 19. What, did that estimate upset you? Then maybe it's time you manifest your own life and get the hell out of here! Thanks for coming by, but this ain't some kind of parasocial interaction. I'm Tap Dry, my editor sure
Yeah, I'm tapped dry too. Holy, what a long video. Holy, I need to stop it a while and a half so that I can gather myself. And even that, I'm still feel exhausted. But yeah, that's the video. Oh my, it's a very long. But I think I can gain a grasp of how it works in a way. Yeah, I think I can get a bit of the grasp. And I feel like I learned a bit of the basic, and I feel like I can remember it myself when I play Limbus Company myself. And since there's no anime for Limbus Company, I will probably try to finish it, or maybe I will try to go until where it gets good, and then I move on to another gacha game, and while also slowly progressing the game. But yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you for watching. If you guys enjoyed, please hit subscribe and please share the video to see more of my content. And yeah, peace out.